Namaste students. Today we are going to do evolution. We all know that evolution is nothing but change in the organism during time. As time progresses, there is change in the living organisms. This happens for millions of years, and there are lot of variation that has happened, and that leads to evolution. So now let us see what is variation. Variation is nothing but, variation is the differences between the individuals within a species. We know there are several organisms, say for example cat. In cat population you can see lot of variations. As far as color is concerned, you can see there are black cats, brown, white, and so on and so forth. In each and every organism we can see such a variation occurs. Now we are going to see what are the reasons for variation. It is an inbuilt tendency during the reproduction, and the causes for the variation is errors in the DNA copying and sexual reproduction. In the genetics, already you have learned that whenever the paternal and the maternal chromosomes are copied, errors occurs. The copying error in the DNA will result in variation. And number two, sexual reproduction. Every time the sexual reproduction will result in variation. Why? You could have learned about meiosis in your 9th standard. In meiosis, you have understood that there is one phenomenon called crossing over. This crossing over will result in recombination. Recombination will result in variation. Variation will lead to evolution. This is a key for sexual reproduction. And now we are going to learn 3 different situations with a reference to a red colored beetle, and we will understand different types of variation with this classical example. Now you can see there are several red colored beetles. These red colored beetles will be pecked by the crow. Crow generally forage on these beetles. And now what happens is, whenever these beetles are being fed by these crows, and it is a natural phenomenon in the food chain. Here, one thing happened as a variant, that is, the variation occurred in this red colored beetle, and one beetle has emerged with green color, that is variation. Variation has resulted in a new color in the case of this red colored beetle. And the color that has appeared is a green colored beetle. The green color is a variant. This green color variation is going to have an advantage among the other red colored beetles. What type of advantage they are going to enjoy? Here, the crow is able to see clearly the red colored beetle and forage on them. They cannot see this green colored beetle because they get hidden by the background. We call this with a technical terminology called camouflage. So, this green colored beetle will now have the survival advantage. So what happens? As the crow population increases, they start feeding more on this red colored beetle also. So the number of green colored beetle will increase. They start reproducing, and more green variant will be seen. And as a result, after a particular generation, say for around 3 generations or 5 generations or even 10 generations, after that if you see, there will be completely only green variant available there. This is one type of selection. This is what we call it as natural selection. Here, the process, that is a sexual reproduction in red beetle, has brought one variant that is called as green color variant. It is an accidental event, but in the atmosphere, it has in the environment, it has an advantage. It is having the survival value. From the predator, it is able to escape because of the camouflage. And because of that, you can see more number of green individuals being selected. This natural selection has proved that these green beetles have adaptive value. Next, when this type of variation in the color occurs, not necessarily it should be always green, it can be even a blue. Here you can see the blue variant occurs. When the blue variant occurs, one thing is, it is not going to have any survival value. It cannot get camouflage in the green background. The green background is because of the leaves, we all know. But now this blue color beetle is not going to have the same advantage that the green color beetle had. So the blue color beetle is equally exposed like a red color beetle to the crow, and the crow start feeding on the red and the blue beetles without any difference. And now what happens? The population will gradually go down. But one more thing that we are going to see here is the accidental disturbance of the population. Say for example, in a circumscribed area where the beetles are seen, if an elephant is going to walk over them, it may stand and the red beetles may be eliminated. It is an accidental event. And because of this event, what happens? The blue individuals may increase in number. I repeat, there are blue and the red individuals. We all know that red beetle is there, and as due to the variation, blue beetle also appears. Blue is a variant here. Their number also gradually increases along with the red population. But when the elephant comes and stamps on the beetle population, majority of the red population of the beetle is destroyed, and because of that, what happens? More of the blue is seen, and because of that, beetles are going to reproduce again and again, and as a result, we are going to get only blue variants there. Now, I can understand your question. Sir, what could have happened if the elephant could have stamped on the blue color beetle and left the red color beetle? If it has happened, then obviously, as you all think, the red beetle is going to survive and the blue beetle will get extinct. But here in the condition what we have taken is the elephant is going to stamp on the red color beetle and going to eliminate the red population from the beetle. So the blue beetle alone is going to survive, and so because of that we are going to see that blue variant is going to get settled in the nature. This process of sudden elimination of one particular genotype or one particular gene pool is called as genetic drift. So I repeat, this sudden elimination of one group of beetles of similar kind by any accidental event is called genetic drift. So let us now compare the events. We have the red population of the beetles. In the first situation, we have got a variant called green variant, and this green variant is having an adaptive value. It can easily get camouflage with the background, that is the green leaves, so that the predator crow cannot forage them, and mostly the red beetles are prone to this crow, and because of this, repeated reproduction of this green variant has resulted in green beetles in the population. That population alone is going to exist because they have the survival advantage. Now, in the second case, if you take, it is a population where the variation in the color is going to be blue, and these blue beetles are going to appear along with the red beetle. But as far as the survival value is concerned, there is no much difference because the crow is able to eat both the red and the blue beetles. But if you take with reference to the accidental stamping by the elephant, it happens, that is, if it is going to stamp on the red population and it is going to reduce considerably the number of the red beetle and only the blue beetles are going to be left out in significant number, then gradually their number will increase and they will occupy the entire environment where they are seen or the habitat. Now there may be one more question. Sir, if it is going to be a very large ecosystem and these beetles are also scattered everywhere and the elephant is going to stamp, then what will happen? There won't be any significant change. There won't be any genetic drift. So this is all only a chance event. That's why we call it as accidental event. And now we have understood what genetic drift is. Now we will go for the next situation. That is the third situation where you can see the group of red beetles, but their size reduces. Why their size reduces? Because their average weight reduces. Why their average weight reduces? Because the leaf matter, that is the food for them, is not available sufficiently. Why the food is not available for them sufficiently? It is because the plant has contracted some disease, and because of that their leaf matter is very less. As the leafy material is very less, the food for the beetle is also very less, and because of this their size reduces. But the reduced size beetles will not guarantee that they will be producing only the small beetles, or the size reduction in the size is going to be a heritable character. Once when the leaf is going to be seen in the nature, that is, once when the infection is being overcome by the plant and the leaves are available, then the beetles will start procuring the leaf and they will grow in size and they will resume the normal size as it was before. And now we have some two important points to be noted. What are they? In the first two conditions, there is variation. That is, the red color beetle has changed into a green color beetle, and a red color beetle has get transformed into a blue color variant. All these variants we have got, but that two variation has been inherited. But here the reduction in the size of these beetles was not inherited. Again, in the last we can see that their size has been regained. So what do we come across with this? What is the significance of this? We have understood that there are certain variations which will be heritable and certain variations will not be heritable. Just with one example, I will again discuss the same concept with beetle. This is one classical example done by August Weismann. This August Weismann's experiment is nothing but he took the rat, and these are the parent rats. He used to amputate the tail and then he allowed them to mate and produce a progeny. The progeny has tail. Again what happened? He got the progenies, he cut the tail, and again he allowed them to breed, and then they got the offspring. Like that he was doing for 19 generations. Even after 19th generation, every time the mice that was reproducing had tail. So he could never see a tailless rat mice is being produced. So this is one classical example for non-heritable variation. Okay, now let us go ahead with one important concept. As far as variations are concerned, they are of two types. One is called heritable variation and another one is called non-heritable variation. What is this heritable variation means? Now let us go back and think about the beetle population. In the beetle population, the red color beetle population has given rise to a green color beetle only because of some genetic variation. This genetic variation, that is the change in the DNA, has incorporated in the DNA of the subsequent generation. So when it gets inherited to the subsequent generations, in each and every generation you can see that green beetle appears and slowly their population increases. In the same way, in the second situation, we have seen that there are red color beetle producing blue variants, and these blue variants is also due to genetic reason only, and because of that the blue variants is able to sustain, even though genetic drift is there, it is able to sustain. These variations have taken place in the DNA. And the third case, if you see, in the third case it is not so. It is only a physical reduction in the size due to the lack of resource. But once when the resource is being supplemented, then again the size of the beetle increases. So we have understood that certain variations that is taking place physically and nothing to do with the DNA or genes, then that will not get inherited. I will give you some classical example. Say for example, a bodybuilder is there. He is doing an isometric exercise. You can see his muscles develop very well. When he reproduces, his son, without doing any exercise, he will never develop such a muscle. The variation that you have seen in the bodybuilder is only a physical variation. It is a non-heritable variation. In the same way, a very fair guy standing in the sun, he gets tan because of sun's radiation. Now his color has gone a bit down. We call it as tanning of the skin. This character will also not heritable. It will not go on to the next generation. This is again a non-heritable variation. You all could have heard about the dropping of atomic bomb in Japan. What happens there? Lot of variation occurs in the organism because of genetic change due to atomic radiation. The effect of that is seen even till today. Even after 50 years, still we can see because the changes have happened in DNA. Now let us summarize. Variation in the species may confer survival advantages or merely contribute to the genetic drift. Variations with survival advantage is selected by nature, that is what is called as natural selection. Changes in the non-reproductive tissues caused by environmental factors are not inheritable. This is very important because when we have learned where the germ cells are being produced, that is the sperm and the egg, you have learned that they are produced from a very important specialized reproductive tissue. Only that is giving rise to the reproductive cell. Yes, you are right. That cells should undergo some variation. The DNA of those cells should undergo some changes. Only then it will get inherited to the next generation. Otherwise it will not get inherited. Those cells are called as germplasm by August Weismann. And all our other body cells are called as somatoplasm. And he gave a very beautiful concept saying that any change in the somatoplasm will not be inherited and the changes in the germplasm only will be inherited. I hope now you are very clear with variation, natural selection, genetic drift, acquired traits and heritable traits. Thank you. Meet in the next module. Namaste.